Chapter 15. "Why did you lie to your parents?" asked Zack. "I didn't," said Jess. "I've never seen a leopard around Terawhiti." They pedaled in silence for a while. "Anyway," continued Jess, "if I lied, so did you." "I didn't say anything." "You shook your head. That means no." "I was shaking my head at your answer." "Yeah, whatever." "So why didn't you tell them about Tasha?" asked Zack. "I want to keep her just for us for a while," replied Jess softly. "She's so lovely. I want to have her all to ourselves." "We'll have to tell someone soon." "Yeah, I know, but not yet. We'll keep her until the end of the holidays." "That's another week," said Zack. "She could be dead by then." "Then we just have to make sure we protect her, won't we?" After that they started climbing Makara Hill and were breathing too hard for conversation. Cars and trucks whizzed around corners, leaving scarcely enough room for bikes. A couple blasted their horns. One woman waved her fist in a way that suggested she thought cyclists shouldn't be on the road at all. Jess gave a friendly wave back, which just annoyed the woman further. Halfway up, Jess pulled across the road into a passing area. She pointed to a track leading into the gorse. "That's part of Makara Peak Mountain Bike Park. We can go that way or along the road. Which do you like?" "What's the track like?" "There's heaps of them. One's even called Zack's Track." Zack smiled. "I'll bet that's the best of them." "Nah, it's one of the worst," replied Jess. "Anyway, it goes the wrong way. The Vertigo track will be the best. It's the shortest." "Vertigo?" asked Zack. Jess gave an evil smile. "It's the feeling you get if you're scared of heights." "So it's steep." "Yeah, but we'll be going downhill. You'll be right." Zack wasn't convinced. He'd seen the way Jess had ridden when chased by the Neanderthals. He imagined she'd ride just as recklessly going down a steep hill. "Let's stick to—" The rest was lost as a vehicle roared up the hill and pulled alongside them. It was the Neanderthals with Yuri behind the wheel. Neither looked very happy with life. The passenger door flew open as Ivan scrambled down from the cab. Instantly, Zack had a change of mind. "We'll take the track," he yelled, standing on the pedals. Unfortunately, the rear wheel was sitting on gravel and skidded sideways, slowing his takeoff. Ivan was already on the ground before Zack gained enough traction to move forward. He had to duck under a swinging arm as the Russian lunged at him. Jess had already disappeared. Behind Zack, Ivan was yelling in a mix of English and Russian swear words. The motor roared, but Zack didn't look back. The track was too narrow for the Neanderthal's monster. For the time being, he was safe. Jess was waiting for him at a branch in the track. "What kept you?" she asked. "Ivan grabbed hold of me, and I had to smash him down," said Zack. "Next, Yuri attacked, so I needed to sort him out. Then I tied them up and disabled the pickup." He paused to glare at her. "It would have been a whole lot easier if you'd stayed around instead of flying down the hill like a scared chicken." Jess tilted her head and smiled. "I knew you could handle those two. Now we've got to find out if you can handle the Vertigo track." Before he had a chance to react, she was off, down the narrow dirt path. At first, the going was a reasonably easy clay track lined with grasses, but that soon changed as the grade got steeper and the grass became trees. By then, Jess was well out of sight, although Zack could still hear her whoops of delight. Zack was not whooping. Every part of his being was concentrating on avoiding roots, branches, trunks, whilst easing down the steps on a bike that wasn't built for the job. And yet, despite it all, by the time he caught up with Jess, who was leaning against a tree, he found that he too was enjoying himself. "How's it going?" she asked. "Okay," he said, grinning. "I can see why it's called Vertigo." "Oh, that bit wasn't steep. Wait until you see what's to come. We may have to walk parts of it. There's a corkscrew towards the bottom where you go over a bridge and then under it. Some of the bits around there are pretty difficult." "Lead on," said Zack. She pushed away from the tree and took off. The next 15 minutes challenged Zack more than anything he could remember. Jess had been right. In places, walking was the best option, and even that was difficult. After the corkscrew, things became easier as they ran down to a flat stretch that eventually opened into a suburban street. They'd made it back to civilization. This time, Karori Valley, which, unlike Makara Valley, was true civilization with mown lawns, rose beds, backyard trampolines, and barking dogs. It could have been any suburban street in New Zealand. And yet, just a moment before, it had seemed like they were in deep bush miles away from everything. Zealandia is set in another of Wellington's valleys. This one had always been free of houses, as it was once the city's main water supply. The dams were still there, but the water now overflows into the Kaiwarawara stream and eventually into the harbor. For 100 years, trees in the valley have grown undisturbed and were already the home of many native animals when it was decided, in 1995, to create a sanctuary there. Since then, many threatened species have been introduced, and Zealandia is now home to Tawatara, giant weta, native frogs, kiwi, and hosts of other birds. Jess and Zach entered the sanctuary determined to see as many animals as possible. The problem was, Zealandia is not set out as a zoo. There are a few cages containing the smaller animals, such as geckos and weta, while most of the bigger ones can roam wherever they like. If they can fly, they can even leave the place and live in the suburbs. Viewing the larger creatures requires keen eyes and ears. Although birdsong surrounded them, few of the birds were willing to expose themselves long enough for a decent view. That was until Zach and Jess got to a kaka feeding station. There, a dozen or so of the forest parrots put on a show, mock battles, tiggy games, and some straight-out bullying, all part of getting a good feed. They didn't see any kiwi, which was not surprising, as birds were probably hidden away until nighttime. However, they did see one nocturnal animal, a tawatara, basking in the afternoon sun. They assumed it was a live one, even though in the several minutes they watched it, no part of its body moved. On the way back to the cafe, they caught up with a family group, a mom and dad with their son and daughter. They were talking excitedly about what they had seen. The younger child, the boy, turned to Zach and asked, "Did you see the takahe?" Zach shook his head. "No, where were they?" "Down by the water. They're nasty." "Are they? Did they come close?" asked Jess. "Yeah, real close. One of them tried to peck me." "What did they look like?" asked Zach. "Like pukekos," said the boy. "Big, fat, lazy pukekos. Dad said they were once pukekos, but they ate too much, and that's how they got big and fat, and now they can't fly." The boy's father turned and smiled at them. "It's sort of like that," he said, "except it happened over 10 million years or so." "Are they quite tame?" asked Jess. "One was," said the man. "Harry's right. It came close and made out like it was going to attack." "I wasn't scared, though," said Harry, "even when it stared at me with those grumpy eyes. Samantha was scared." "I was not," said the girl. "Was so." The argument continued until they reached a display giving information about Zealandia's perimeter fence. The parents used it to distract the two kids. "See that?" said the mother. "That's how they made the fence. That keeps all the bad animals out." "What bad animals?" asked Harry. The mother read out the names. There were all the usual predators that kill native animals, rats, stoats, etc. Each was shown against the fence, indicating how high they could jump. What surprised Zach was the height a possum can jump, 1.5 meters, just 30 centimeters short of a cat. After the mother had finished reading the animals' names, Samantha asked, "Why don't they show a dog? They attack kiwi." "Maybe they can't jump very high," replied the mother. "Yes, they can. Trixie can jump almost as high as me. A big dog could jump over that." 2.2 meters? said the father. "Not a chance." "What about that leopard?" asked Harry. "I don't know how high leopards can jump." "Maybe it will come here and jump in and eat that takahe," said Harry. "That will serve it right for being so mean." "There's no leopard, Harry," said the mother. "People are just making that up." "What if there is? I bet it could eat the takahe in one bite." "No, it couldn't," said Samantha. "Yes, it could." The father sighed. "Come on, you two. I'll race you back to the car." That was enough to stop the bickering, and soon the whole family had disappeared around a bend. Jess turned to Zach. "Could Tasha jump high enough to get over that fence?" "Easily," said Zach, walking down the path. And then he turned back to her and chuckled. "But she'd need a lot more than just one bite to finish off a takahe."